Let's Get Down to Business is presented by Bravo, the marketing arm of Ash Brokerage Corporation, the practice enhancement company. All this week, it's individual long-term care insurance. And on today's show, long-term care plan design. And with me today, nationally recognized long-term care expert, Maria Sarchi. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, Maria, day 4, my eyes are opened. I'm getting an economic epiphany. I'm having premium proportion revelations here. It's not as expensive as we thought. We can really make this way beyond our benefit period if we do a very good job of stewarding our assisted living into nursing home care. There's so many cool ideas here, and I want our advisors, especially if you're sitting there saying, Steve, I've been trying to get into the senior market. This may be your entranceway. This could be your gateway into the senior market. Everybody's looking at this now and looking at the mechanics of how am I going to live my golden years? How golden will they be? Well, if you have the right assisted living, it could be really great up into your 90s. You could be the Guinness Book of World Records. That gal in France lived to 121 years. Wow. Think about that.
Gosh.
Woo. We're talking today not only about long-term care, but the design.
Yes.
I'm always thinking, I got to think about my elimination period. I got to think about how long I'm going to keep the coverage. I'm going to have to think, am I going to go the Cadillac plan? Am I going to do something a little bit in the media? Talk about this, because there's a lot of moving parts here.
Probably the most important thing I could say about this segment is that plan design is personal. Mm-hmm. There is no cookie cutter approach. You cannot take one plan design and put it out there for the masses. I think one of the things that we would do a disservice of in this environment is to say that here's the optimal plan design. Here's what everybody should do. Mm-hmm. Because you have to look at the individual. You have to look at what funds they may have already set aside. You have to look at their insurability. You have to look at what their hopes and dreams are. And that's not just something that we should take lightly. If somebody is really key on retiring in Florida because they live in New York, or spending time with their family in Nebraska when they currently live in Los Angeles, you have to look at that as part of your plan design element. There are many schools of thought. You can look at a really high monthly benefit and a shortened benefit period, the duration, how many years the coverage would last. There are some folks that feel far more comfortable going low on the monthly benefit and elongating their benefit period. There's no right or wrong. It's up to that individual to help their professional guide them in what their key benefit drivers are. And if we don't ask those questions up front, in my opinion, we're not going down the right track.
Okay, so you're really asking, I mean, if I heard you just right, you're really asking, hey, you live in New York, you're thinking about retiring in Florida, that matters.
Of course it does.
Okay, so you have to ask these questions. Do you think when you're walking through cases with our advisors, are you bringing this up to them?
Yes.
Hey, don't forget to ask about this.
Every time.
When I'm looking at flexibility of programs, we were talking about underwriting. I'm thinking, like, who's the most benevolent underwriter in long-term care? Does it matter by carrier? Does it matter by client? And then I'm thinking, how can I build my design around different things, like how flexible would it be? Yeah. Should I make it a lower premium, a lower benefit, longer time of coverage? Should I make my elimination period a lot longer because I have some cash reserves? I want to get that premium down. I know you say that we can't cookie cutter, but somewhere along the line, there has to be, based on the client's specifics, there must be some optimum way to construct this once you understand the data.
Well, understanding the data is key. Without that, you're just starting from a place of zero. You have to know what the client ultimately is hoping to achieve. And when you know what their key desires are, when you know where they want to receive care, when you can understand what their budget is like for the premium, I mean, why would you show somebody, a really heavily priced solution when they can't afford it? I mean, that's just adding to the myth of long-term care is too expensive. If we could show people that we can take a look at doing something maybe average $200 a day, $6,000 a month, that's a pretty decent starting point. It's a good way to at least give the client some idea on what those premiums would be. As far as the elimination period is concerned, the shorter the elimination period, the higher the premium cost. The longer the elimination period, the lower the premium cost. And that also works on the inflation factors. You can buy some really aggressive inflation options, and it'll cost you more.
Well, when you say aggressive, give me a number.
Well, 5% compound, probably the most aggressive inflation option that there is in the market today.
You're available at Simple. Do you see people taking more of the compounded and higher number, like 5% versus 30, or 33%, or Simple?
It depends on the age of the individual. It depends on what their budget is like. I can tell you without a doubt that over the past 2 years, we've seen more step away from 5% compound because of the way that these plans have been priced and focus more on 3% or even 5% simple.
When I'm thinking of this, I noticed that a couple of these on my list here, CPI.
Yeah.
Now, what's with, I keep thinking inflation. Steve thinks in inflation mode. Then when I came into long-term care thinking, I get simple, I get compounded.
Yep.
I don't get CPI, GPO, and FPO.
Yeah.
And by the way, good thing we're not doing a consumer show because we're talking about abbreviations and acronyms that are just choking the horse. I don't even know what these are.
And they're probably not solutions we would talk about right off the bat, okay? Because they are a little bit more unique. CPI, the inflation is tied to the consumer price index. We have one carrier in particular who's focusing on that type of inflation. So it can be 1%, 2%. It's not going to be 5%. And what that means is that the premium for that kind of inflation is going to be pretty low. But you have to ensure that the client understands with that low inflation option, their benefit pool, if they're buying it at 40, 45, is not going to really progress in the way 5% simple or 3% compound might.
Well, actually, since the government's the one that issues the CPI, I probably am going to go to the inflation compounded because they don't even have my gasoline in that price tag and some of our food stuff. So what about, do you see percentage-wise to a premium? I know I have to bring inflation in on this. I have to somehow, whether it's simple, compounded, CPI, whatever. But what is that number? 2%, 3%? What's the average?
The average we see today is 3%. And that's how we basically see our plan design. And carriers are coming out with new and innovative inflation options all the time because we recognize buying it younger, we need that benefit pool to grow with us.
Well, when we come back, we're going to discuss the various funding strategies available to pay for long-term care and help you maximize your policy benefits during retirement. And don't forget, you can request our long-term care manual from Backroom Technician right on our site at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. Or just sign up for your own free 30-day free trial with Backroom Technician at brtnow.com/trialsignup.aspx. We'll be right back with more from Maria right after the break.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of indexed universal life, Ash Brokerage.
Well, welcome back. I'm Steve Savant with Maria Sarchi, and remember, you can watch all our episodes of Let's Get Down to Business, including my weekly consumer show, Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game, right out at ashbrokerage.com. Just click on the show logo. It'll take you right out to our show site and all our archives. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, your legal counsel, as well as your broker-dealer compliance officer. Do not consult me on long-term care. That's why I'm talking to Maria. Let's get down to business. We're talking about various funding strategies available for long-term care. I've convinced my client this is the way to go. Now I got to find the dough, right? I got to find the money for this.
It's important to identify where it's going to come from.
Yeah, so let's talk about this because I think this is one of the arts of being a true advisor. What assets am I going to use? Where am I going to get the funding vehicle? How am I going to make this happen? Once I've convinced the client this is the actual way to go and leverage their long-term care and to really, by the way, and I keep bringing this up, your lifestyle during your golden years is so important. This is why this is important. It's a quality of life issue.
That's why we're sitting here.
You said in Monday, it's an issue of dignity.
Yes.
So let's talk about that because I want to know, how do I do this now? You've convinced me. How am I going to pay for this?
Well, there are a couple of strategies we should look at. First, the individual might already have some liquid cash available. I always get chuckles when I say that, but there might be some liquid cash available in that household budget that we can put towards a premium for the long-term care plan. You can look at your health savings account as an opportunity to use some cash from that to fund your long-term care premiums.
Let's just talk about that for a second. HSA accounts are hugely popular. I know I can use medical expenses to come out of that. You're saying I could use medical premiums for long-term care to come out of that? So in fact, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but since my HSA account is pre-tax dollars, am I really getting my premiums discounted basically?
Well, I never quite thought of it that way, Steve. But taking a look at that HSA and the way the folks protect that pocket of money, right, for medical expenses, telling an individual they can use those premiums to cover a long-term care premium, not very many individuals even know that that is an opportunity, and it is. And so as we talk on this show about how to get folks to think about LTC planning, that certainly is one way to cover that cost.
Well, I know that that several these separate accounts, medical accounts, especially HSA, are hugely popular, especially now Obamacare. People are looking at that as another possibility. And when I look at that, to me, that's a pretty good deal because, you know, most people got their HSA accounts in a pre-tax way, so this could really leverage your dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people like me, I have mine. I have a lot of money in my account because I've been so far, my wife and I have been in pretty good shape. I haven't really spent that much. And if I wanted to go ahead and use my premium dollars, I could use it out of there and really get the leverage of why I'm using an account like HSA. But you know, you also said regular unspent monthly budget. I keep thinking that advisors, sometimes we become so sophisticated that we're doing asset allocation and we forget, these people have a budget.
Yes.
And they have cash flow.
Yes.
And so I'm looking at assets that I don't want to surrender because I got capital gains on it or whatever my problems are. But really when we're looking at this, they may have just simple cash flow during their monthly budget.
Yeah, and one thing that we should keep in mind is that premiums for these types of protection plans, typically they're made with annual payments, but you can also pay for them on a monthly basis. So sometimes when you pare it down to what a monthly premium might be, it's easier to visualize where that monthly income could come from to apply towards the premium.
Well, I'm all over that because that's exactly how I talked myself into it, to be honest with you. I wound up paying annual, but how I actually entered my very first of underwriting, I just looked at my total benefit per month. I looked at my total all-in benefit for the entire contract. Then I said to myself, between my wife and I, we're looking at spending right around $400, it was a little bit more than that, $450 a month for this benefit of $420,000 all in. See, that helped me. That helped me get through it. And sitting there saying, okay, I have this now. I have cash flow. I have cash flow in my monthly budget to pay for that. Oh, now I have my HSA. I could go to there, right? There's different ideas. And I have I hate to say it, I have loser investments. Right? You know, I might as well take the capital gain loss, right, and put it into my premium.
There are many ways we can find the premiums because when you think about the benefit that this protection plan provides, when you think about, yes, $3,000 a year may feel like a sting, but when you look at $6,000 a month in expenses, again, we talked about this earlier in the week, what is the downside from going through that thought process? What is the downside in looking at all the options to find a way to protect yourself from $6,000 a month? When an individual might say to me, I work with advisors all across the country, and they might say, my client doesn't have the money to do it. I respect that. I understand it. The advisor knows their client intimately. My question to the advisor is, well, let's talk about where the funds will come from in the event that there's a long-term care need.
Well, how about my latest retirement model? I got involved with one of our agents. He said, Steve, I'd like you to talk to one of my clients. I said, be happy to do so. He saw us on the show. And he said to me, Steve, I really don't see the long-term care need, but his children did. Now, this is the beauty of it. They saw their parents, their baby boomer parents, taking care of their World War II Korean parents. And they saw what hassle it was. The baby boomer parent didn't want to buy it, but his millennial kid said, after seeing you and mom take care of grandma and grandpa, I'm all over this. So if you're not willing to fund this, we may come up to the table because splitting it among us 4 children is $100 a month. That's a pretty good deal.
Generational impact.
Right.
A term you heard me use earlier in the week. It absolutely affects your children, your children's children. Not only from a financial standpoint, but let's go back to what it means to have to actually provide that kind of care for mom or dad. So yes, when a parent says no, it's often their adult children that might say, hang on, mom and dad, we really need to do something here.
I love that. Well, that's our show for today. Remember, you can read all my online insurance news commentary, advisor blogs, and articles on producersweb.com, as well as my answers to insurance questions at the Insurance Library. And don't forget, you can always view all our past episodes right on our on-demand section, right down to business.ashbrokerage.com. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or just email me, steve.savant@ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. See you.